Welcome to my Lazo podcast. Let's get into it. Today is Thursday. And you know what today is? Thorns and Roses Day, baby. My goodness. We're 80% through with this book. It's getting really interesting, if I'm being honest with you. Our girl Farah, as well as Lucian and Tamlin are all in Amaranthia's prison. And so I'm excited to see how they're going to get out of this one and what's going to go down from here. But before we get into chapters 37 and 38, we also have our thread. Now, today's thread is pretty interesting. This one is, what really fucks you up as you grow older? All right. So let's see what fucks you guys up as you get older. All right. The loss. It starts with a pet, maybe, then you can't find your favorite cereal anymore or your favorite snack. Your go-to restaurant closes. Your favorite actor or musician dies or retires. Friends move away, or worse, they change into incomparable people, but they're still around to remind you of what you have. Your children grow up and they have different priorities in life. Finally, you have the finality of losing loved ones permanently. Ooh, that one's tough. But what really hurts is all of the little losses along the way. And what's weird about it all is that there never seems to be enough new to replace the old. Facts. You know, I've always said it where I'm like, I've had a lot of friends who have like lost, you know, their family members and like parents and stuff like that. And for me, I'm like, I am going to dread the day when I lose a parent. You know what I mean? Because it's one of those things where it's like, it'll happen eventually, you know, like it's just a natural course of life. It happens. And, you know, when you see people that you know or that you care about go through something like that, you're like, fuck. Because then it puts you in that position where you're like, this is going to happen to me sometime eventually in the future. Oh my God. And that fucks me up all the time. And I try not to think about it, but you know, it's one of those things where you kind of think about like your own mortality and death eventually. And you're like, holy shit, you know, I'm not going to live forever. And so, yeah. And like, they're right. You know, it starts with the smaller things. You know, when you're a kid, it's like you have all these friends and you hang out with all these people. And then as you get older, you know, you really only have one or two friends. And you have coworkers and acquaintances and stuff like that, but you really only have one or two friends. You know, things aren't the way you remember it, like TV shows and cartoons and places you would go eat at and all that kind of stuff. It's just not the same anymore, you know, and you're thinking to yourself just like, what the fuck, you know, why is everything changing all around me, you know, and you think it wouldn't impact you as that much, but it does. You know, I know the biggest one is fast food restaurants. You know, they used to be very colorful and vibrant, but now they're all dull and gray. You know, that's been a big one, and so that happens with a lot of different things. And so, yeah, dude. Oh, I feel you on that one. When I woke up on my 40th birthday, I thought, how am I 40 when I feel like 16 was yesterday? My daughter, who was 8 at the time, said, happy birthday, Mom. You're halfway dead. Wow. The mental mindfuck was crushing. Wow. Your daughter's so fucked up. She was like, happy birthday, Mom. You're halfway dead. Like, yo. Come on, man. Why you got to do that to me? Damn. Oh, the existential crisis would be just running through my head like nobody's business. And honestly, a lot of people that I've talked to who have kids, they're like, time doesn't really fly until you have kids. You know, once you have kids and you're watching your kids grow up and you see how fast they grow up, that's when you really start to notice how fast time flies, because it goes from like they're a little baby to they're running around to, you know, they're yay high and talking, and then before you know it, they have boyfriend, girlfriend, and they don't, you know, you're not cool anymore. And they don't want to be home ever. And it's just like, A lot of people I've talked to who have kids are just like, you won't notice how fast time flies until you have kids. And yeah, damn. And then, they'll be honest with you. They'll tell you you're halfway dead, The fact that my brain is still in high school while my body breaks down slowly but surely. See, that was me in my early 20s. I ain't gonna lie to you, in my early 20s, I wanted to go back to high school. I was just like, this adulting thing ain't for me. I can't stand this. This sucks. Like, work was trash. I felt like, why the hell am I doing this? Because I didn't really understand, like, the... how would you say it? Like the joys of, I guess, getting paid. Cause once I started like getting paid regularly, and once I started noticing like the freedom that my money gave me, I was like, holy shit, yo, this is dope. Being an adult's kind of cool. But then obviously, then there came bills, and then there came all this other stuff. And then it's just like stress on top of stress. And you're like, all right, man, maybe this ain't as fun as I thought it was going to be, and then you're just tired and you're constantly doing shit you don't want to do. Yeah, man, it makes you want to go back. I know for me, I be telling kids, don't be in a rush to grow up. Trust me. Because when you get here, you're going to hate it, and you're going to wish that you could go back. I know I do. I missed high school so much because all I had to do was worry about going to school, doing my homework, and meeting bitches. Like, it was great. It was fantastic. I loved it. But now I'm an adult, and meeting women is as hard as ever. Every woman is either stuck on their ex, or they're in between, or they're doing, they're trying to find themselves or whatever. And you're like, all right, cool. That's fantastic. It's like making friends is super difficult because everybody and their mama got kids and lives and, work and schedules and all this. And so it's like, it just sucks. When you're a kid, though, it's like all your friends are open to hang out. It's easy to meet girls. It's easy to, go out and do stuff and have fun. It's like you just don't have to worry about shit like that. So yeah, I feel you, man. I feel you, because that was me in my early 20s. Now that I'm damn near 30, it's like, all right, look, man, I've got 10 years of abuse. I'm good. I'm in it. It is what it is. This is my life now. Like, hey, trust me, bro. You'll get there. Life will beat you to the point where you'll be like, you'll just accept it. Sadly. Realizing how quickly time flies and you're still figuring things out. Facts. Because like I said, I'm almost 30 and I'm still figuring things out. A lot of things, But at the same time, I don't think you ever really figure it out. I think people who even are in the category of figuring it out are still figuring it out because shit's always changing. Technology is always complicating things more. The more advanced it gets, the more complicated human interaction becomes. People are changing and thinking differently all the time. That's why there's, 47 genders and transgenders and all this stuff. And, there's just so much going on. You can't say this word. You can say that. You should support that. You shouldn't do that. It just, shit's always changing. So you never really figure it out. Even in the basic shit of just buying a house, starting a family, and living an ordinary life. Shit's still changing in that. Just to even start a family, you have to meet a significant other, but meeting a significant other is extremely hard. Why? Because of technology and how it's really weirded out the human interaction. Like, I can't go up to a girl that I think is attractive and talk to her and be like, oh my God, you're beautiful, without her being like, hey, what's going on? Like, you know what I mean? Or her thinking shit's weird and like, and it's just, and then the, hookup culture and dating apps and all that kind of stuff have like, really taken the love aspect out of a relationship. And I say all that to say, like, you can't even start to figure things out, until you've at least got those basic things down, where you're talking to people, meeting people, having conversations with people you don't know, all that kind of stuff. And then, because you can't get to having a family, having a home, and having a life and all, you just can't. That's why a lot of people are single and they're doing it on their own, and it sucks because you're so focused on that and you get so used to being single that you never even really think about being in a relationship. Before you know it, you're out here 40 and on dating apps thinking like, oh, hey, what's up? What's going on, guys? And they're like, what the fuck is Gramps doing here? So yeah, dude, I feel you. Oh, that one got removed. Okay. Time speeding up progressively. Now a year flies by in what feels like a couple months. It's scary. Makes me wonder if my last 20 years will feel like 5. Woo. Facts. Lack of exercise and making nutrition a priority. I mean, look, man. I think people are just more lazy than they have ever been. Yeah, because of the advent of technology. Technology has made people so fucking lazy. It's crazy. And it's funny because as me, as someone who is big into fitness and stuff, I count my calories and macros every day. I count them every single day. Every morsel of food that goes into my body, I count it. And when I go to like fast food places or whenever I go out to eat with friends and stuff like that, I can understand why people are fat. Because you can eat 4,000 calories in the matter of a couple hours. It's crazy how much calories are in our food and how fattening a lot of the shit is. And it's one of those things where you're just looking at yourself and you're just thinking like, whoa, holy shit. Like if people actually counted the calories of what they eat every single day, you would be surprised at the amount that you actually eat. And then when you look at yourself, you're just like, yeah, that's probably why I'm fat. And if I'm being honest with you, and the fact that like people don't want to work out and, and stuff like that, it's like, dude, I can see why life expectancy is starting to be on the decline now, which is crazy enough. It's like with it's crazy because medicine and medical technology has gotten to a point where we can live to 100, but people's lifestyle and how they decide to live their lives has decreased, the life expectancy. Like life expectancy now for an average person who doesn't work out and, is considered obese, was 30 pounds over their BMI, they're projected to live only to be, 60, 75. And it's like, and some people look at it like, oh shit, 60, 75, count me in. I'm down. I don't want to live past that anyway, and I get it and that's fine. But it's like, dude, we have the advent of technology to point where, we could live past that. You know what I mean? Like we could live past that, but yeah, it is what it is. It's a shocker though. When you realize you have more road behind you than you have ahead of you, still have so much you wanted to do and realize that it doesn't matter one bit. The universe owes you nothing. Facts. And a lot of times I look back and I'm like, damn, if I could go back to that point in time of, my past, like, that was when I was happy. If I can go back to this point in time, man, that was when I was, actually enjoying myself and having fun. And yeah, I feel you on that, man. I'm 39. I was on the road for the last month. I stopped at a hotel and the entire hotel lobby was full of young 20-year-old kids having a ball and drinking. I thought if I went up to my room and changed and came down here, I'd be the creepy old guy. Facts. There's so many times where I'd be thinking to myself, like there's a lot of these young kids, they're 19, 20, 21 and stuff like that. And when you just listen to them talk and you listen to the things that they're into and just the slang nowadays, my God. And I've said it multiple times on this podcast where, I make the joke of, let me whip out the cane. Cause back in my day, I make that joke all the time because it's true. It's a true fucking thing. It's like, bro, back in my day, shit just wasn't like this. You know what I mean? It's definitely gotten to a point where when you get to a certain age, you're just like, wow, I don't fucking understand any of this anymore. Especially when you were the type of person, back in the day when you had a lot of friends, you were up with the slang and, you knew what was going on. Now internet moves so fast. It seems like every month, every week, there's a new word coming out. There's a new phrase. There's a new this, a new riz, a new skibbity, a new this and that, and you're like, what the fuck is going on here? And you're trying to just keep up with everything. Yeah. So, hey, I feel you, brother. I feel you. And, and you feel like the creepy old guy. Romantic relationships going badly wrong and leaving you back where you started, except this time you're probably less physically attractive and you have emotional baggage to carry around. Facts. And that's why I was saying about the whole, with the advent of advanced technology, it's made dating trivial. Nobody actually dates to find love. Nobody actually dates to want to be with somebody. Nobody's dating for that. Everybody is dating for very arbitrary things. A lot of people on the women's side, they want a guy who has money and is established and has all of this and all of that. And then on the guy's side, a lot of guys are just like, what's the point in being in a relationship? I'm just gonna fuck and that's that. And it fucks both sides up. And now nobody really, because me, I'm an old school guy, you know what I mean? I like to take you out on a date, pick you up, get to know you, you know what I mean? Spend some time, talk to you on the phone, all that kind of stuff. Like, I'm old school, I want to be on the phone like, hey, baby, how's it going? How you been? How's your day? Like that was spitting game back in the day, you know what I mean? You lower your voice, you be on the phone with your girl and be like, what's up, girl? How you doing? How you been? Oh yeah, for real. You don't do that anymore. There's a girl I'm talking to now, and it's like, she doesn't talk on the phone. She doesn't like to FaceTime. Getting her to hang out with me is like pulling teeth a lot of times, and then I say certain things to her and I mean it, like, hey, I'm really about you. I like you, this, and that. But the straightforwardness is so scary to her. You know what I mean? Me being straightforward is just like, what? Why are you telling me how you feel about me? Like it's like this new concept and it's so mind blowing. And it's crazy because a lot of the girls that I've talked to, they're like, man, I wish a guy would just be straightforward with me and tell me that he likes me and his actions follow that. And it's like, right? I would think so too. I would think a girl would want a guy to just be like, hey, yo, this is how I feel about you. This is, me. This is what I want to do. Like, let's do this. Yeah. But it's again, it's that thing where it's like, nobody is really dating to find love. And so, when they get in these situations, and that's why situationships are such a popular thing right now. When situations come about, nobody's telling each other if they like each other or not. Nobody is really, trying to like one person more than the other. And they're like, oh, I'd be damned if, I liked him more than he liked me, or I'd be damned if I liked her more than she liked me. And it's like, what are we doing here? Do you guys like each other or not? If you do, you should be able to be open and honest and tell them that, but they just don't. And that's why we have baggage, and that's why, people aren't getting married anymore. People aren't having kids. It just is what it is. And if they are having kids, it's like, oh, I fucked you one night without a condom, But hey. Realizing that 1990 was 30 years ago when it still feels like 10. Time's playing tricks, man. Hey. As of today, it's actually older. It's actually 34 years. Crazy, right? Crazy. Yeah. I know. I'm gonna let that one sink in for all my 90s babies out there. Let me see. When your eyesight starts to go, isn't great. All right, I don't know, man. My eyesight's still chilling. Maybe that's a you thing. You know what I mean? I think that's a you thing. I don't know about me. My eyesight ain't going nowhere. Getting older alone messes me up. I'm basically withering like a leaf, just at a slower pace. Facts. And I think it fucks up people who are used to dating back in the day the way it used to be, where like, you know, you would meet people and, you know, you would like where are the days when you went to the mall to go meet a girl? You know what I mean? Like, where are the days where like you went to like you met people at like just random places? If I'm being real with you, you know what I mean? Like, I remember back in the day, back in my day, let me whip out the cane for you. Back in my day, that's where me and my friends met girls. We went to the mall. You know what I mean? We went to the mall. That's where we went. We would just scour the mall and looking for pretty girls, and we're like, yeah, that girl's pretty, you know. We'd see her walk into a store or whatever, and she's looking at something, and you'd look at it next to her and be like, oh man, you know what, you look pretty cute in that, you know. And she's like, oh yeah, right. And I'm like, no, you should try it on. I'd love to see you in it. I think you look really cute. And she'd be like, maybe, I don't know. And then, you know, you start talking and whatever and vibing, and then you make a day out of it and stuff like that. I don't think you can do that anymore. I think that's just like, that's considered being a creep now, if I'm being real with you. You walk up to a girl and you say something like that, and you try to spit game to her like that. It's like, yeah, I said it. Spit game. I know. I got the cane out today, baby. You know what I mean? We getting old out here. But yeah, it's just one of those things where it's just like, you can't do that anymore, you know? And ever since that whole, when you're in the woods, would you rather meet a man or a bear? Ever since that whole debacle came out, oh, there's so many chicks that are just like, yeah, dudes are fucking creepy because the moment they meet you, they're just gonna try to have sex with you. They're gonna, and I'm like, what? What do you mean? Like that? Huh? Like, what kind of dudes are you hanging out with? Because for me, if I was interested in you, I'd want to talk to you, get to know you. You know what I mean? Hang out with you. Hey. I know nothing. I know nothing. But I feel that though, because I'm in the same boat. You know what I mean? You know, I'm getting older and older, and you know, I'm still alone. It's like I'm trying to talk to people, but it just ain't working out, and you just kind of feel defeated a lot of times, where you're just like, well, it is what it is. Because I know for me, if I get 40 and I don't find somebody, I'm hanging up the gloves, man. I'm hanging up the gloves. Me and Pamela are gonna walk out into the sunset, and I'm just gonna be like, I love you, baby. Mwah. You and me forever. Because that's just what it is, man. That's just what it is. I can't take 10 more years of, you know, trying and doing more, you know, nah, 40 is my limit, baby. Me and Pamela, we're gonna go to Ibiza and have our honeymoon and be straight chilling. Just is what it is, brother. Hey. All right, the past. Some have trauma. Some tolerated too much disrespect. Some reminisce on individuals they could have saved if they did something differently. The past haunts everyone. I know people are going to say, hey, get over it. Some people have been through adversity. Most people can't fathom. You know, it's the truth. It's the truth. You know, as you get older, you really kind of contemplate the past a lot more. But honestly, I think if you're not looking forward, you know, you're only holding yourself back. Yeah. And I know he was like, oh, I understand people say get over it. But it's like, you should get over it, but you need to get over it in a healthy way and do it in a way where, you know, you can look back on that and be like, dang, I'm glad that I got through it. And I think that's how you need to get over it. Yeah. Because it's just going to hold you back. You know, it's going to hold you back. People you love passing away, i.e. parents, grandparents, etc. Facts. We kind of covered that one already. But yeah, I know for me, I'm like, I do not want to fucking Oh, I don't want to lose a parent because I, like I said, I've seen how much that destroys people. But it's evident it's going to happen eventually. It happens to everybody. You just got to count your lucky stars. Arthritis gives pain. Hormonal changes cause issues with the ability to have sex. People you've always known start dying often. Yeah, facts. Especially the arthritis thing, man. Sometimes I'll be feeling that. I'll be like, man, is my wrist? Like, what's going on? Like, what the fuck? Like, no, man, my wrist shouldn't be doing that. No, my knee shouldn't be popping like that. You'd be like, what the fuck? Money problems. Facts. I feel you on that one, man. Because it seems like shit's only getting more and more expensive. Like, man, because a lot of times, like, oh, bro, back in my day, let me whip the cane and the beard out again. Back in my day, it seemed like shit was, and maybe this was just me being a naive kid, or me being just a young 19, 20-year-old nothing. I used to think like shit was cheap. I was like, yo, shit is inexpensive as fuck. Like, what the hell is going on here? Like if I was working the job I work now, back then, oh, your boy be rich. I swear to God, I'd be rich. I'd feel that way anyway. You know what I mean? And then obviously once, shit catches up, it's like, okay, all right, now I don't feel so rich no more. But, yeah. And I think you only really notice that once you start buying your own shit. You know what I mean? Once you start buying your own things and really supporting yourself and really taking stock of, what you pay for, budgeting your money, trying to save money, all that kind of stuff, then you really start to realize how expensive living really is. And you're just like, whoa, holy shit, So, and it seems like it only gets worse the older you get. And that's why for me, I try to be as financially literate as possible. And I try to kill a lot of my bad habits when it comes to spending money, because oh my God, I watched a lot of financial shows. One I'm watching now that I really like is Financial Audit. And, this guy, he brings on people, ordinary ass people, and he goes through their finances, and it's crazy how much money people really spend and how much debt people really are in. Thank God for me, I'm not an exorbitant amount of debt, but it's just one of those things where it's like people are in 30, 40, 50, 100, $200,000 of debt. And you're like, whoa, holy shit. I need to get my shit together. It makes you look at your finances and be like, oh, damn, what do I spend my money on, And so I think everybody should be really looking into that, because it's like that, it catches up. Okay, this is going to be our last one for this thread. Personally, I have slowly lost my vigor for life. I know at every turn something will be there with a handout trying to take it from me. I've gone from wanting to fight hard for things that are right to realizing how corrupt everything is and how I can't change it alone, so the effort is moot. Sparkly dreams fade into dull reality and you go on autopilot. I want less and less to do with people every year. It's like withering. And sadly, that's just the reality of life, Yeah, because when you're younger, you look at adulthood and you're like, oh my God, I can't wait to have a house. I can't wait to, drive my dream car, have a good job. I'm going to meet somebody, have kids. We're going to be doing our thing. And you think that these things are so easily obtainable. And then when you get to that path in life, you see all of the roadblocks that are actually there. And you're like, all right, great things in life that are worth having, you're gonna have some roadblocks. You know what I mean? You're gonna have some tough times. So you go through it, and you're just like, you're going through roadblock after roadblock, and you're going through shit after shit, and you're just like, all right, man, I'm tired. I don't know if I want to keep doing this. You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck is going on here? And then you move on to a different chapter of your life, and you realize there are just as many roadblocks, if not double the roadblocks that you've just gone through. And then you're just like, what's the fucking point? You know, what's the fucking point? And, you know, you see other people, whether it's online or you see, you know, people that at work or people that you know in your friend circle and stuff like that, you know, you see shit happening for them. And it does give you that spark of like, you know what? I could do this. If they did it, I could do it. You know what I mean? So then you keep going and keep going. And eventually, you know, you burn out. And that's why a lot of people give up on things so very quickly, you know, because the burnout is real and the burnout is there and it just happens. It sucks, but the burnout gets the best of you and you can't deal with it anymore, you know? And so, yeah, dude, for me, it's just one of those things where it's like, hey, once you hit that reality point in life, you're like, fuck. But that's going to go ahead and be the end of that thread, man. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the existential crisis as much as I didn't. Hopefully you guys, you know, didn't think about your life too hard, you know what I mean? But hey, let me know down in the comments what are things that, you know, really get to you as you've gotten older, you know what I mean? And if you agreed with some of the things that I've said, or, you know, you have some other opinions, definitely let me know down in the comments. But without further ado, though, I'm going to get into announcements, and we're going to hop into Haunting Adeline. Court of Thorns and Roses, sorry. Patreon.com/Am I the Asshole podcast. Get that exclusive episode every single Friday, as well as being able to send in your scenario to be featured on the Tuesday and Sunday shows. We had a great Sunday show last week, so, you know, get your scenarios in there so we can get you on there, as well as the Tuesday. If you're an audio listener, keep downloading the podcast. It shows me that you guys are loving the show and that you keep coming back for more. And then also, rate us 5 stars if you haven't already. Gets new people into the door. It lets the little algo be like, hey, this show is pretty cool, man. You might want to check it out. So, do that for me. It's free. And you know what I say. If it's for free, then it's for me. If you want to help even more on the free 99 side of things, go ahead and get down on that link, link tree. Click on that. Follow us on TikTok, Instagram, as well as YouTube, man. It helps out a lot. I appreciate you guys all for the support. But without further ado, let's get to you guys' favorite part of today's show, and that is A Court of Thorns and Roses, chapters 37 and 38.
Chapter 37. No one, not even Lucian, came to fix my arm in the days following my victory. The pain overwhelmed me to the point of screaming whenever I prodded the embedded bit of bone, and I had no other option but to sit there, letting the wound gnaw on my strength, trying my best not to think about the constant throbbing that shot sparks of poisoned lightning through me. But worse than that was the growing panic that the wound hadn't stopped bleeding. I knew what it meant when blood continued to flow. I kept one eye on the wound, either out of hope that I'd find the blood clotting or the terror that I'd spy the first signs of infection. I couldn't eat the rotten food they gave me. The sight of it aroused such nausea that a corner of my cell now reeked of vomit. It didn't help that I was still covered in mud, and the dungeon was perpetually freezing. I was sitting against the far wall of my cell, savoring the coolness of the stone beneath my back. I'd awoken from a fitful sleep and found myself burning hot, a kind of fire that made everything a bit muddled. My injured arm dangled at my side as I gazed dully at the cell door. It seemed to sway, its lines rippling. This heat in my face was some kind of small cold, not a fever from infection. I put a hand on my chest, and dried mud crumbled into my lap. Each of my breaths was like swallowing broken glass. Not a fever, not a fever, not a fever. My eyelids were heavy, stinging. I couldn't go to sleep. I had to make sure the wound wasn't infected. I had to. The door actually did move then. No, not the door, but rather the darkness around it, which seemed to ripple. Real fear coiled in my stomach as a male figure formed out of that darkness, as if he'd slipped in from the cracks between the door and the wall, hardly more than a shadow. Rhysand was fully corporeal now, and his violet eyes glowed in the dim light. He slowly smiled from where he stood by the door. What a sorry state for Tamlin's champion. Go to hell, I snapped, but the words were little more than a wheeze. My head was light and heavy all at once. If I tried to stand, I would topple over. He stalked closer with that feline grace and dropped into an easy crouch before me. He sniffed, grimacing at the corner splattered with my vomit. I tried to bring my feet into a position more inclined for scrambling away or kicking him in the face, but they were full of lead. Rhysand cocked his head. His pale skin seemed to radiate alabaster light. I blinked away the haze, but couldn't even turn aside my face as his cold fingers grazed my brow. What would Tamlin say, he murmured, if he knew his beloved was rotting away down here, burning up with fever? Not that he can even come here, not when his every move is watched. I kept my arm hidden in the shadows. The last thing I needed them to know was how weak I was. Get away, I said, and my eyes stung as the words burned my throat. I had difficulty swallowing. He raised an eyebrow. I come here to offer you help, and you have the nerve to tell me to leave? Get away, I repeated. My eyes were so sore that it hurt to keep them open. You made me a lot of money, you know. I figured I would repay the favor. I leaned my head against the wall. Everything was spinning like a top, spinning like... I kept my nausea down. Let me see your arm, he said too quietly. I kept my arm in the shadows, if only because it was too heavy to lift. Let me see it. A growl rippled from him. Without waiting for my reaction, he grabbed my elbow and forced my arm into the dim light of the cell. I bit my lip to keep from crying out, bit it hard enough to draw blood as rivers of fire exploded inside me, as my head swam and all my senses narrowed down to the piece of bone sticking through my arm. They couldn't know how bad it was because they would use it against me. Rhysand examined the wound, a smile appearing on his sensuous lips. Oh, that's wonderfully gruesome. I swore at him, and he chuckled. Such words from a lady. Get out, I wheezed. My frail voice was as terrifying as the wound. Don't you want me to heal your arm? His fingers tightened around my elbow. At what cost? I shot back, but kept my head against the stone, needing its damp strength. Ah, that. Living among fairies has taught you some of our ways. I focused on the feeling of my good hand on my knee, focused on the dry mud beneath my fingernails. I'll make a trade with you, he said casually, and gently set my arm down. As it met with the floor, I had to close my eyes to brace against the flow of that poisoned lightning. I'll heal your arm in exchange for you. For 2 weeks every month, 2 weeks of my choosing, you'll live with me at the night court, starting after this messy 3 trials business. My eyes flew open. No. I'd already made one fool's bargain. No? He braced his hands on his knees and leaned closer. Really? Everything was starting to dance. Get out, I breathed. You'd turn down my offer? And for what? I didn't reply, so he went on. You must be holding out for one of your friends, for Lucian, correct? After all, he healed you before, didn't he? Oh, don't look so innocent. The adder and his cronies broke your nose. So unless you have some kind of magic you're not telling us about, I don't think human bones heal that quickly." His eyes sparkled, and he stood, pacing a bit. "The way I see things, Feyre, you have two options. The first and the smartest would be to accept my offer." I spat at his feet, but he kept pacing, only giving me a disapproving look. "The second option, and the one only a fool would take, would be for you to refuse my offer and place your life, and thus Tamlin's, in the hands of chance." He stopped pacing and stared hard at me. Though the world spun and danced in my vision, something primal inside me went still and cold beneath that gaze. "Let's say I walk out of here. Perhaps Lucian will come to your aid within 5 minutes of my leaving. Perhaps he'll come in 5 days. Perhaps he won't come at all. Between you and me, he's been keeping a low profile after his rather embarrassing outburst at your trial. Amarantha's not exactly pleased with him. Tamlin even broke his delightful brooding to beg for him to be spared. Such a noble warrior, your high lord. She listened, of course, but only after she made Tamlin bestow Lucian's punishment. 20 lashes. I started shaking, sick all over again to think about what it had to have been like for my high lord to be the one to punish his friend. Rhys shrugged, a beautiful, easy gesture. "So it's really a question of how much you're willing to trust Lucian, and how much you're willing to risk for it. Already you're wondering if that fever of yours is the first sign of infection. Perhaps they're unconnected, perhaps not. Maybe it's fine. Maybe that worm's mud isn't full of festering filth. And maybe Amarantha will send a healer, and by that time you'll either be dead, or they'll find your arm so infected that you'll be lucky to keep anything above the elbow." My stomach tightened into a painful ball. "I don't need to invade your thoughts to know these things. I already know what you've slowly been realizing." He again crouched in front of me. "You're dying." My eyes stung, and I sucked my lips into my mouth. "How much are you willing to risk on the hope that another form of help will come?" I stared at him, sending as much hate as I could into my gaze. He'd been the one who'd caused all this. He'd told Amarantha about Claire. He'd made Tamlin beg. "Well?" I bared my teeth. "Go to hell." Swift as lightning, he lashed out, grabbing the shard of bone in my arm and twisting. A scream shattered out of me, ravaging my aching throat. The world flashed black and white and red. I thrashed and writhed, but he kept his grip, twisting the bone a final time before releasing my arm. Panting, half sobbing as the pain reverberated through my body, I found him smirking at me again. I spat in his face. He only laughed as he stood, wiping his cheek with the dark sleeve of his tunic. "This is the last time I'll extend my assistance," he said, pausing by the cell door. "Once I leave this cell, my offer is dead." I spat again, and he shook his head. "I bet you'll be spitting on Death's face when she comes to claim you too." He began to ripple with darkness, his edges blurring into endless night. He could be bluffing, trying to trick me into accepting his offer. Or he might be right. I might be dying. My life depended on it. More than my life depended on my choice. And if Lucian was indeed unable to come, or if he came too late. I was dying. I'd known it for some time now. And Lucian had underestimated my abilities in the past, had never quite grasped my limitations as a human. He'd sent me to hunt the Suriel with a few knives and a bow. He'd even admitted to hesitating that day when I had screamed for help. And he might not even know how bad off I was, might not understand the gravity of an infection like this. He might come a day, an hour, a minute too late. Reason's moon-white skin began to darken into nothing but shadow. Wait! The darkness consuming him paused. For Tamlin. For Tamlin, I would sell my soul. I would give up everything I had for him to be free. Wait, I repeated. The darkness vanished, leaving Rhysand in his solid form as he grinned. Yes? I raised my chin as high as I could manage. Just 2 weeks? Just 2 weeks, he purred and knelt before me. 2 teensy tiny weeks with me every month is all I ask. Why? And what are to be the terms, I said, fighting past the dizziness. Ah, he said, adjusting the lapel of his obsidian tunic. If I told you those things, there'd be no fun in it, would there? I looked at my ruined arm. Lucian might never come, might decide I wasn't worth risking his life any further, not now that he'd been punished for it. And if Amarantha's healers cut off my arm, Nesta would have done the same for me, for Elaine. And Tamlin had done so much for me, for my family. Even if he had lied about the treaty, about sparing me from its terms, he'd still saved my life that day against the Naga, and saved it again by sending me away from the manor. I couldn't think entirely of the enormity of what I was about to give, or else I might refuse again. I met Rhysand's gaze. 5 days. You're going to bargain? Rhysand laughed under his breath. 10 days. I held his stare with all my strength. A week. Rhysand was silent for a long moment, his eyes traveling across my body and my face before he murmured, "A week it is." Then it's a deal, I said. A metallic taste filled my mouth as magic stirred between us. His smile became a bit wild, and before I could brace myself, he grabbed my arm. There was a blinding, quick pain, and my scream sounded in my ears as bone and flesh were shattered. Blood rushed out of me, and then... Rhysand was still grinning when I opened my eyes. I hadn't any idea how long I'd been unconscious, but my fever was gone, and my head was clear as I sat up. In fact, the mud was gone too. I felt as if I'd just bathed. But then I lifted my left arm. "What have you done to me?" Rhysand stood, running a hand through his short, dark hair. "It's custom in my court for bargains to be permanently marked upon flesh." I rubbed my left forearm and hand, the entirety of which was now covered in swirls and whirls of black ink. Even my fingers weren't spared, and a large eye was tattooed in the center of my palm. It was feline, and its slitted pupil stared right back at me. "Make it go away," I said, and he laughed. "You humans are truly grateful creatures, aren't you?" From a distance, the tattoo looked like an elbow-length lace glove, but when I held it close to my face, I could detect the intricate depictions of flowers and curves that flowed throughout to make up a larger pattern. Permanent. Forever. "You didn't tell me this would happen." "You didn't ask. So how am I to blame?" He walked to the door but lingered, even as pure night wafted off his shoulders. "Unless this lack of gratitude and appreciation is because you fear a certain High Lord's reaction." Tamlin. I could already see his face going pale, his lips becoming thin as the claws came out. I could almost hear the growl he'd emit when he asked me what I'd been thinking. "I think I'll wait to tell him until the moment's right, though," Rhysand said. The gleam in his eyes told me enough. Rhysand hadn't done any of this to save me, but rather to hurt Tamlin, and I'd fallen into his trap. Fallen into it worse than the worm had fallen into mine. "Rest up, Feyre," Rhysand said. He turned into nothing more than living shadow and vanished through a crack in the door. Chapter 38. I tried not to look at my left arm as I scrubbed at the floors of the hallway. The ink, which in the light was actually a blue so dark it appeared black, was a cloud upon my thoughts, and those were bleak enough even without knowing I'd sold myself to Rhysand. I couldn't look at the eye on my palm. I had an absurd, creeping feeling that it watched me. I dunked the large brush into the bucket the red-skinned guards had thrown into my arms. I could barely comprehend them through their mouths full of long yellow teeth, but when they gave me the brush and bucket and shoved me into a long hallway of white marble, I understood. "If it's not washed and shining by supper," one of them had said, its teeth clicking as it grinned, "we're to tie you to the spit and give you a few good turns over the fire." With that, they left. I had no idea when supper was, and so I frantically began washing. My back already ached like fire, and I hadn't been scrubbing the marble hall for more than 30 minutes. But the water they'd given me was filthy, and the more I scrubbed the floor, the dirtier it became. When I went to the door to ask for a bucket of clean water, I found it locked. There would be no help. An impossible task, a task to torment me. The spit. Perhaps that was the source of the constant screaming in the dungeons. Would a few turns on the spit melt all the flesh from me? Or just burn me badly enough to force me into another bargain with Rhysand? I cursed as I scrubbed harder, the coarse bristles of the brush crinkling and whispering against the tiles. A rainbow of brown was left in their wake, and I growled as I dunked the brush again. Filthy water came out with it, dripping all over the floor. A trail of brown muck grew with each sweep. Breathing quickly, I hurled the brush to the ground and covered my face with my wet hands. I lowered my left hand when I realized the eye was pressed against my cheek. I gulped down steadying gasps of air. There had to be a rational way to do this. There had to be some old wives' trick. The spit. Tied to a spit like a roast pig. I grabbed the brush from where it had bounced away and scrubbed at the floor until my hands throbbed. It looked like someone had spilled mud all over the place. The dirt was actually turning into mud the harder I scrubbed it. I'd probably wail and beg for mercy when they rotated me on that spit. There had been red lines covering Claire's naked body. What instruments of torture had they come from? My hands trembled, and I set down the brush. I could take down a giant worm, but washing a floor, that was the impossible task. A door clicked open somewhere down the hall, and I shot to my feet. An auburn head peered at me. I sagged with relief. Lucian. Not Lucian. The face that turned toward me was female, and unmasked. She looked perhaps a bit older than Amarantha, but her porcelain skin was exquisitely colored, graced with the faintest blush of rose along her cheeks. Had the red hair not been indication enough, when her russet eyes met mine, I knew who she was. I bowed my head to the lady of the autumn court, and she inclined her chin slightly. I supposed that was honor enough. "For giving your name in place of my son's life," she said, her voice as sweet as sun-warmed apples. She must have been in the crowd that day. She pointed at the bucket with a long, slender hand. My debt is paid. She disappeared through the door she'd opened, and I could have sworn I smelled roasting chestnuts and crackling fires in her wake. It was only after the door shut that I realized I should have thanked her, and only after I looked in my bucket that I realized I'd been hiding my left arm behind my back. I knelt beside the bucket and dipped my fingers into the water. They came out clean. I shuddered, allowing myself a moment to slump over my knees before I dumped some of the water onto the floor and watched it wash away the muck. To the chagrin of the guards, I had completed their impossible task. But the next day, they smiled at me as they shoved me into a massive dark bedroom, lit only by a few candles, and pointed to the looming fireplace. "Servant spilled lentils in the ash," one of the guards grunted, tossing me a wooden bucket. "Clean it up before the occupant returns, or he'll peel off your skin in strips." A slammed door, the click of a lock, and I was alone. Sorting lentils from ash and embers, ridiculous, wasteful, and... I approached the darkened fireplace and cringed. Impossible. I cast a glance about the bedroom. No windows, no exits save the one I'd just been chucked through. The bed was enormous and neatly made, its black sheets of silk. There was nothing else in the room beyond basic furniture, not even discarded clothes or books or weapons, as if its occupant never slept here. I knelt before the fireplace and calmed my breathing. I had keen eyes, I reminded myself. I could spot rabbits hiding in the underbrush and track most things that wanted to remain unseen. Spotting the lentils couldn't be that hard. Sighing, I crawled farther into the fireplace and began. I was wrong. 2 hours later, my eyes were burning and aching, and even though I combed through every inch of that fireplace, there were always more lentils, more and more that I'd somehow not spotted. The guards had never said when the owner of this room would return, so every tick of the clock on the mantel had become a death knell, every footstep outside the door causing me to reach for the iron poker leaning against the hearth wall. Amarantha had never said anything about not fighting back, never specified that I wasn't allowed to defend myself. At least I'd go down swinging. I picked through the ashes again and again. My hands were now black and stained, my clothes covered in soot. Surely there couldn't be any more. Surely... The lock clicked, and I lunged for the poker as I shot to my feet, my back to the hearth and the iron rod hidden behind me. Darkness entered the room, guttering the candles with a snow-kissed breeze. I gripped the poker harder, pressing against the stone of the fireplace, even as that darkness settled on the bed and took a familiar form. "As wonderful as it is to see you, Feyre, darling," Rhysand said, sprawled on the bed, his head propped up by a hand. "Do I want to know why you're digging through my fireplace?" I bent my knees slightly, preparing to run, to duck, to do anything to get to the door that felt far, far away. "They said I had to clean out lentils from the ash or you'd rip off my skin." "Did they now?" A feline smile. "Do I have you to thank for this idea?" I hissed. He wasn't allowed to kill me, not with my bargain with Amarantha, but there were other ways to hurt me. "Oh, no," he drawled. "No one's learned of our little bargain yet, and you've managed to keep it quiet. Shame riding you a bit hard?" I clenched my jaw and pointed to the fireplace with one hand, still keeping the poker tucked behind me. "Is this clean enough for you?" "Why were there lentils in my fireplace to begin with?" I gave him a flat look. "One of your mistress's household chores, I suppose." He said, examining his nails. "Apparently she or her cronies think I'll find some sport with you." My mouth dried up. "Or it's a test for you," I managed to get out. "You said you bet on me during my first task. She didn't seem pleased about it." "And what could Amarantha possibly have to test me about?" I didn't balk from that violet stare. Amarantha's whore, Lucian had once called him. "You lied to her. About Claire. You knew very well what I looked like." Rhysand sat up in a fluid movement and braced his forearms on his thighs. Such grace contained in such a powerful form. "I was slaughtering on the battlefield before you were even born," he'd once said to Lucian. I didn't doubt it. "Amarantha plays her games," he said simply, "and I play mine. It gets rather boring down here day after day." "She let you out for fire night, and you somehow got out to put that head in the garden." "She asked me to put that head in the garden. And as for fire night..." He looked me up and down. "I had my reasons to be out then. Do not think, Feyre, that it did not cost me." He smiled again, and it didn't meet his eyes. "Are you going to put down that poker, or can I expect you to start swinging soon?" I swallowed my curse and brought it out, but didn't put it down. "A valiant effort, but useless," he said. True. So true, when he didn't even need to take his hands out of his pockets to grip Lucian's mind. "How is it that you have such power still and the others don't? I thought she robbed all of you of your abilities." He lifted a groomed, dark brow. "Oh, she took my powers. This..." A caress of talons against my mind. I jerked back a step, slamming into the fireplace. The pressure on my mind vanished. "This is just the remnant. The scraps I get to play with. Your Tamlin has brute strength and shape-shifting. My arsenal is a far deadlier assortment." I knew he wasn't bluffing, not when I'd felt those talons in my mind. "So you can't shapeshift? It's not some High Lord specialty?" "Oh, all the High Lords can. Each of us has a beast roaming beneath our skin, roaring to get out. While your Tamlin prefers fur, I find wings and talons to be more entertaining." A lick of cold kissed down my spine. "Can you shift now, or did she take that too?" "So many questions from a little human." But the darkness that hovered around him began to writhe and twist and flare as he rose to his feet. I blinked, and it was done. I lifted the iron poker just a little bit. "Not a full shift, you see," Rhysand said, clicking the black razor-sharp talons that had replaced his fingers. Below the knees, darkness stained his skin, but talons also gleamed in lieu of toes. "I don't particularly like yielding wholly to my baser side." Indeed, it was still Rhysand's face, his powerful male body, but flaring out behind him were massive black membranous wings, like a bat's, like the adder's. He tucked them in neatly behind him, but the single claw at the apex of each peeked over his broad shoulders. Horrific. Stunning. The face of 1,000 nightmares and dreams. That again useless part of me stirred at the sight, the way the candlelight shone through the wings, illuminating the veins, the way it bounced off his talons. Rhysand rolled his neck, and it all vanished in a flash, the wings, the talons, the feet, leaving only the male behind, well-dressed and unruffled. No attempts at flattery? I had made a very, very big mistake in offering my life to him. But I said, "You have a high enough opinion of yourself already. I doubt the flattery of a little human matters much to you." He let out a low laugh that slid along my bones, warming my blood. "I can't decide whether I should consider you admirable or very stupid for being so bold with a High Lord." Only around him did I have trouble keeping my mouth shut, it seemed. So I dared to ask, "Do you know the answer to the riddle?" He crossed his arms. "Cheating, are you?" She never said I couldn't ask for help. "Oh, but after she had you beaten to hell, she ordered us not to help you." I waited, but he shook his head. "Even if I felt like helping you, I couldn't. She gives the order and we all bow to it." He picked a fleck of dust off his black jacket. "It's a good thing she likes me, isn't it?" I opened my mouth to press him, to beg him. If it meant instantaneous freedom— "Don't waste your breath," he said. "I can't tell you. No one here can. If she ordered us all to stop breathing, we would have to obey that too." He frowned at me and snapped his fingers. The soot, the dirt, the ash vanished off my skin, leaving me as clean as if I'd bathed. "There, a gift, for having the balls to even ask." I gave him a flat stare, but he motioned to the hearth. It was spotless, and my bucket was filled with lentils. The door swung open of its own accord, revealing the guards who'd dragged me here. Rhysand waved a lazy hand at them. "She accomplished her task. Take her back." They grabbed for me, but he bared his teeth in a smile that was anything but friendly, and they halted. "No more household chores. No more tasks," he said, his voice an erotic caress. Their yellow eyes went glazed and dull, their sharp teeth gleaming as their mouths slackened. "Tell the others, too. Stay out of her cell and don't touch her. If you do, you're to take your own daggers and gut yourselves. Understood?" Dazed, numb nods, then they blinked and straightened. I hid my trembling. Glamour, mind control, whatever it was he had done, it worked. They beckoned, but didn't dare touch me. Rhysand smiled at me. "You're welcome," he purred, as I walked out. Chapter 39.
All right. That is today's episode. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching. Hope you guys enjoyed chapters 37 and 38. I will see you guys on Friday if you're on Patreon, and then on Tuesday if you're a free 99 guy. I love you guys all. It's been a good episode. Get down in the comments. Let me know what you thought about the thread. And, oops, there we go. Hello. All right, and I'm out of here. Peace.